So let's start by looking at the definition of a web page. And I'm very sure that if not, every one of us must have visited a web page within a website. So a web page, like we established when we started this program, it's an interface, or there are different applications that forms a website. An example of a web page is the home page. Another example of a web page is the About Us page, the service page, and let's say gallery page. All of these are referred to as web pages. So as a developer or a website designer, we need to understand that it is our responsibility to develop all those pages that I just mentioned. Now, we can also see, or we should always know, that these pages are expected to be populated with contents. The contents that can be displayed across these pages could be images, could be plain text, could be hypertext, which are also known as links. It could even be video file, that is media file. So let's quickly start with defining a web structure. So I would like to create a folder since we are starting afresh. And please, somebody should remind me next time that the folder is in documents. So I want to quickly create a folder. Then I'm naming the folder 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. web class. So as usual, we have the folder like this, and then we have to insert the folder in our development environment, which is the Visual Studio Code in this case. So I have to call it in by going to File and then select Open Folder. Then, all right. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, so I have to navigate to where I have my folder, which is my project folder in Documents. That is if you created your folder in Documents. And then you locate the name of the folder. Remember, we saved it as 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. So all you need is just to select it and then click on Select Folder. All right, so we have the folder called in our development environment. So the next thing is for me to create other web-related folder. For example, I can decide to make an image folder in order to package all the images that will be used to develop the website. So since they are folder, I have to click here and then I'll name it IMG. Then I will need another folder to envelope all my CSS code. So I'll create it and say CSS. So for now, I'll leave it with just two subfolder inside the main folder. Now, the first thing is for me to create my file, my index file, because we were taught that every website you visit has a landing page. So the landing page is like the very first interface or page the user accesses when they log into your website. So it is very important you take quality time to build such a page. Like they say, that first impression matters. So you do not need to rush the index page. So it is also called the home page. Okay, so that is the page we want to develop tonight. So to start with, like I told us from beginning, your HTML file should not be wrapped in any sub folder. Right? All your HTML file should be created directly inside your main folder, which is the root folder. So you need to understand how your file is structured. Looking at the arrows, you know that this one is navigating what? Downward, which means that you are currently in this very folder, and inside it, we have two sub items. So once you have ensured that you are in the main directory, you click on this add file icon, and then you create the first page, which is index.html. Index.html. So once you have created your file, and then you click outside. So I'm doing all this because I know some of us, it has been a while. Now, the next thing is for us to activate our HTML default file structure. What do I mean by HTML default file structure? So we should always know that HTML is a markup language that defines the structure of every website. In other words, it is the bones, it is the skeleton that form the shape of our website through the content that will have been populated. Now, you are supposed to define the structure from scratch. But because we are using advanced IDE like Visual Studio Code, so we understand that a simple HTML file structure is already embedded in it. So all we need to do is to call it out as developer and start expanding it due to the content we want to publish within our website. So how do we call it? Just simply type HT, and that can only bring out this when you have saved a file with .html. So you click on HTML5. Now, this is a live website. This is a real website. So you don't assume contents. Your content must align with the website niche. So let's say we want to create a website, let's say an e-commerce website. So you can choose any type of website. So I'll just simply write as my title, my document title, as welcome to let's say Digital Z. Welcome to Digital Z Hub. Right? So once that is done, now let's talk about website structure. Let's talk about website structure. Now, we need to know that a website has 3 different sections. In other words, let's say this is your website. So the first section of your website is called the navigation bar. The navigation bar. And this navigation bar constitutes what we know as links or main links. In every website, we have main links and we have are quick links. So your main link includes your home. And then it also includes about, let's say, about us. It also includes contact us and so on. Now, in most websites, you can as well publish your social media content somewhere within the same navigation bar. Now, immediately after the navigation bar, you have another section, which is called the main body. So the main body is actually used to publish the main contents. The main content, what exactly you build the website to advertise, should be located within the main body. Then, of course, the very last section or parts at the bottom of your website is called the footer. So the moment you want to start your design, you need to bear these three sections in mind. You can decide to choose different or multiple structure within those main structure. That is, I can decide to say, instead of having one by one, which is one row, one column, I can decide to split this, where I will use here to publish probably an image, and then here for some write-up. So once you have been able to map out the three sections, then within those three sections, you can decide to define multiple or different structure, depending on how you feel that the content will be friendly presented to your users. All right, so now that we understand this section, so I'm going to start by designing the navigation section, which is also known as the header. So I'm starting with the header design. Now, to start with, we need to consult one of the HTML container elements. HTML container elements. There are so many HTML container elements. We have elements like div. We have elements like section. We have elements like main. We have elements like footer. All these are container elements. In other words, these are tags or these are HTML elements that can be used to group contents. Okay. Now, for us to model the navigation bar, like the diagram I just clean now, you notice that I drew the main box, and inside the main box, and then now I have the section labeled the navbar. So in this case, the main box is the body tag. That is the first box that I drew before I started sectioning header, main body, and footer. So which means that our first container is already activated as body. Now, the header section, I will now use, there is a tag called header. We have a tag called header. So in other words, this header is going to envelop all the navigation link, and if possible, if I want to add some other quick link, fine. So, but the major function of this section is to hover on my main link, right? So the next thing inside is, that is, I'm structuring it in a way that it will be easier for me to communicate to in CSS. Like I always advise, when you are developing your HTML structure, always bear in mind that you are still going to style it. So let's all the elements be well arranged so that you can easily fetch them accordingly when talking to them either from JavaScript or from HTML, right? So I will just create another subword container. In other words, I have the first container and then I have nested another container. So this nav is to hold all the navigation links. That is the idea. So I want to give it a class. I believe we still remember why we use class, because you might use this same element in this same file to avoid conflict when talking to them from your CSS page. So I will just class it nav bar, just class it nav bar. Now, inside this navbar, I want to create a logo, and the logo is going to be test logo. For your own case, if the logo is not text, let's say an image, then you have to use image tag to achieve that. All right, so I'll just create a div just to hold the logo, and then I'm giving the div class name logo. So I'll just give it logo, and then the content of the logo is, let's say, using 3-letter that represents Digitazil Hub, right? So that is the div for the logo. So while I am still inside the nav elements, then I have to mention all my links. I remember when we were learning tags, we did explain that there are some HTML tags which are mainly used for listing, where we have on order lists and order lists. I hope you still remember that. And for us to initiate on order list, we have to start with UL, by creating a UL. That is another container that we generate a numeric marker. Now, to mention the link, I will use the li, and because the links are not just going to be plain text, instead they are going to be clickable text, I have to wrap them in an anchor tag. So I have to create an anchor tag inside the li, and then specify the URL. Of course, the first one is the index page.html. Now, the link must have a description to enable user to click on it. So the description will not be index, will be home. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to copy this particular line of code, Control C, and then while I am still inside the UL, I will paste a number of them and then go back and start editing. So let's say this one is the link for About Us. So I will just change it and then also change the content to About Us, or just about, and then change this to, let's say, service, and then change here also to service. So any link that you don't know what's the URL, for the meantime, you can just leave it like this. Just put something like hash. So which means that you are yet to factor out the destination. So as soon as you know it, you come back and substitute it. So the reason why we usually leave unknown destination link with the hash is such that when the user click on them, it keeps the users within that same page instead of displaying page not found. right? So this one should be contacts, and then the description should also align with contacts, right? So I can have more of it, but let me just stop here. So let's see what we have developed so far in our browser. That is, let's check the front end. Let's see the front end and see what we have developed so far before we look at the CSS aspect of it. All right, so this is what we have. Now, the next part of it is for us to style it, because if you look at the HTML presentation, it's not user friendly. So we need to make sure that those links and the logo tests are properly presented. Right, so now I'm going to create an external CSS file, like we also taught that we have internal styling, we have inline styling, and then we have external styling. So for external styling, which is most recommended because of debugging, I have already created a folder. So I will just go in that folder and make a file. I can name it this CSS. They are for styling the component I have in my index file. So I'll say index.css. Now, because we are styling with external CSS, we need to connect the two files together. And to do that, we go back to the HTML and then go to the head section and then type link and then press enter. And then inside this href attribute, just insert a / and that will automatically call out all your root folder directory. So from there, you can navigate to the CSS and then select the CSS file. Now, the next thing is for us to start the styling. So I'll go to that file, go to the CSS file, and then I'll use comments to be explaining the elements I want to speak to per time. So I also encourage us to always use comments to segment your activities in case your code is passed to the third party. All right. So we are going to start by styling the .nav bar. So if I could just go back to the HTML, I'm starting my styling from here. This one is just for me to wrap everything in a container in case later I want to give the whole of that section a different background color. So now looking at this element is a class element. Being a class element, we have to select it with dots, with exactly the name you use, nav bar. And then of course, open your CSS coiling brackets to declare the properties. So what do I want? The first thing is that if you look at how the contents displayed on the browser, they are currently displaying block or in a block format, because each of the item in my list or in the UL, they are taking new line. But I want a situation whereby everything inside that container that we are talking to should display side by side on a straight line. So that is the reason why the very first property I'm going to call is display property in order to organize the item. Don't forget that this particular element is a container. So whatever property you are writing inside, you are actually referencing the contents. So how do you want the content inside that container to display? So if I use Flex and go back to the browser, you see something had changed. Now, the best way you will know if something has changed is for you to comment it out. But before that, take note of the appearance and see what changes once added. So let me temporarily comment this out and then go back to the front end and see. You see that what there's different. This, when we added that display flex, the whole of this went up somewhere here. Or let's go back and activate it back and then check it again so you can see it. So what it means right now, let me visualize it so that you can get it. So what's the display we have got to right now is that this is a box on its own, while this is also what a box on its own. But initially, this is how both of them were displaying. They were all in one box. So the D, we were having something like this initially. The other was under it. So this one is this. Why this is this. But the moment you flex it, you see that what they are now displaying what side by side. So we need to know when to flex. So if you have a container and you add two or more items inside it, if you want to display them side by side, the right property to use is what? Flex. If you don't want to use flex, there are other property you can use like block. Okay, so but most time our devices find it more friendly with the flex. So that is for that. I just want us to understand what we communicated with the display flex. So the next item or the next property is that we want to justify them, the space between each of those items inside the container we are currently talking to. We want to justify them horizontally. So that will bring in justify content, justify content. So what is justify content? Justify content is a property that is only used when you are talking to a container with content. So like I've explained before, there are elements that you shouldn't use content. The moment you are using anything that have to do with or any property that have to do with content, you should know that you are talking to a container, not an individual element. So how do you want the item in the container to be justified, to be spaced? So I will say space in between. Now let's go back to the front end. Like I've advised us before, this stage where you are learning, you must not write all the CSS and then before checking their impact. The best way you can understand the contribution of each of them is that after writing it, you check the front end. You see that what you can see the difference now. They are just two items. Now you can see that the second item has been shifted to what? To the right hand side, while the other one taking the what? The left hand side. That is justification horizontally. All right, so I want to believe we are all following. Let me get a response. Are we following, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So now let's go back to the CSS and communicate another property. Now, having aligned them horizontally, I want to also distribute them. That is what? To place them at the same level. That is what? Center. What you did before is this. Now, there is possibility of one element higher than the other. So for you to place everything at the center, that is horizontally. So we have to bring a line item, a line item, a line item. So you can see this is another CSS property that is used when you are talking to a container with content. Items is not items, not one. Okay, so align item, that is what? Those items, those content in the container navbar. You want to align them what? Center. Now let's go back to the front end and check. You see what happened here. Initially, check where this particular digit DZH was. Now, like I advised us, if you want to know the impact, let's take note of the current positioning of the two items. Now, let's go back to our development environment and temporarily comment this out. Now, if you come back, look at where it is. Look at where it is. What it means is that if you rule a box, let's say this thing, why are you disturbing me? If you rule a box, let's say this is a box, my line, you will see that this one, the DZH is not at the center of this box. So by the time you go to your, by the time you activate that align item, let's check again. You see that what is now what at the center. So I just want us to understand what we are saying with that property. All right. All right. Now, the next property I want to implement is background color. I want the whole of that navigation section to have a different background color. If I don't then I can leave it that way. So I'll simply communicate CSS property for background. So I can use the shorthand, which is background, and then use hexadecimal method, which is calculating color, starting with hash, with number and letter. So I will just say hash 111. That will give us a color. So if I go back to the front end, you see that we now have a color. Now, the next thing I want to implement, the next thing is the write-up, because I noticed that as soon as I gave the elements background color black, I can no longer see some of those content. So there's need for me to also upgrade the text color using the color property. So I'll just use the same hexadecimal but different color. Let's say FF, that will give us color that look like white. So if you check, okay, so this is visible. Though I'm still going to talk to this item with their direct elements. Okay, so now I want to add some space between them.
I want to ask a question.
Okay.
This background, you only said background, then you put the color. If you put background color together, will it give a total different output?
That one is a shortcut.
Okay.
You have the same output.
Okay.
The reason why we have this shorthand is that there might be some cases where you want to combine two properties together. So once you have said background color, it means you have specified the one you want to use. But if I say background, I can nest other property.
Okay.
So now
Okay.
let's look at the next thing is padding. I want to add some padding space. And I want to believe that we still remember the concept of padding, that the moment you are using CSS properties like padding, margin, it means that you are acknowledging an element as a box model. That is, you are considering that that particular content is within a container. So if it is within a container, then the elements will not be touching the container while inside it. There will be some space around the content and the container itself. So those spaces on the inside between the content and the border of the container, that is referred to as padding. So we can have it in 4 value. We have padding left, padding right, padding top, padding bottom. Now, where you are now relating one element and another element, let's say, for instance, we have the P tag, which is also assumed to be in a box, and then we have the H1 tag, which is also assumed to be in a box. The space between the P tag box and the H1 box on the outside is called margin, which means that we can also have margin top, margin left, margin bottom, and margin what? Right. So once you call padding, you should know the space you are talking about. Now, I'm going to use just 2 axes to represent the first side of the padding. So if I say 15 PS, and I space, and I say 40 PS, it means that what? This value represents left and right, while this one represents what? Top and bottom. That is what you are saying. So let's go and check. So we have the padding. Now, because we are talking to the container, there might be some of them that okay, what we will do, let's take note of how it appears right now. Let's go and comment it out. That is the best way you can actually monitor the contribution of each of these. Now look at it here. You can see that this is touching the what? The container on the what? The left hand side, while this is also touching the container. So let's activate our padding and see that we will now have space on the inside. So there is now what? Allowance here. Okay, so the element, the content in that container, they are not able to stand out. So that is, we don't want that space on all the side. We wanted 40 here, and then we added what? 15 here. So let's quickly continue. So for now, that is what I want on that particular container. So let's focus on another element, which is, let's go back to our, okay, you have a question?
Yeah. We can, like, if we want to explain it to someone, we can easily say padding is space between container and content, while margin
Yeah,
is space between container and container.
simple as that. Simple as that.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. All right, so now let's talk to the next item, and the next item is the UL. I don't want to bother myself with the logo test for now. So the UL, let's quickly class it. Let's class it nav link to show that this is holding our links. All right. So I'll use comment to also explain styling the container. Can just make it more explanatory to myself. Styling the container holding nav links. So I will use the class name dot to avoid error. I will just simply go there and copy it, Control C. Just start with the dot because it's a class element. Now, the next thing is for me to display the item in that container flex as well. So I will say what? Display flex. Now let's go back and check. You can see as soon as you display them flex, they are now displaying what? Horizontally, which is our plan. We want the link not to be displayed vertically. So the next thing I want, still talking to that container, is I want to silence, I want to remove this dot that you are seeing. We all know how they came about, so we don't want it so that our website will look very neat. So we know what added those icons. So we just say list style. Then we just give none, that we do not want them. So if I go back, you see that what I have removed the markers. So the next item we want to talk to now is the li inside the ul. Don't forget that the whole of this class represents this ul. So now we want to talk to the li before we talk to the anchor tag. So we are following that order. So talking to the li, we are going to model the elements based on parents and child elements. What does that mean? It means that we will do something like this. So we'll take this, I will explain it, Control C, Control V, and then I'll say LI before I open my CSS block. So what it means is that you are not talking to this. You are only referencing this with its own parent element. So you are saying that what? In case there are other LI in other container, the very one I am talking to is the one that is inside the element with this class. That is what you are saying. So this method of modeling or selecting elements is called CSS combinator, or using the relationship between child and the parent. So, okay, so what exactly do we want here? What I want is just to add some space. Now, if you look at the front end, you see that what they are all meshed together. They are touching each other. So I need to space them. And right now, what created those items is the one we are talking to. So I will just simply say margin, because I'm talking about the space on the outside. Now, it's not all the side that I really want to add margin to. So I'll just focus on one side. So I'll just say margin, margin left, margin left, margin left. Let me just give space of 20 ps. So if it's not enough, once you check it, you can always go back. So you can see that what? We now have space in between them, right? So now that is achieved. Now, the next thing I want to talk to is the content themselves, the write-up. So I want to change their color. I want to remove that default decoration. So how do we talk to it? Using the same parent. So you take the whole of this again, because I've already know the structure, Control C, and then I'll just come here and paste. I'll space and put A. So you can see what you are talking to right now is the A element, but you are only establishing the fact that before I can get to the A element, you should have gone through what? This element and this element. So once I'm given code like this, I know that, oh, this A is a direct child of Li. Li is a direct child of what? Nav-links. All right. So now what do I want here? I want to upgrade the color. I want to upgrade the color. I want to upgrade the color of those write-up. So color, I'll use white. Color, I'll use white. Right. So if I check now to check, good. So I am communicating. Color, I want to use white. Then the next thing I want to add is to silence. I don't want to have this underline. I can decide to say, okay, I want it to be at the top. That is what? Overline. Because by default, links will usually generate that purple color and decorate themselves with that underline. So you as a developer, you can stop the browser from applying that default appearance by saying there's decoration. You can choose to say you want to use overline. Let's go there and check. So some individual would prefer this style as a way of presenting. But the question you should be asking yourself is that, is it user friendly? Because whatever you are designing should be user friendly. So I would rather put what? None, to say I don't need it. Right? So the next thing I want to achieve is to add hover effect when the user mistakenly touch any of this. Okay, when they mistakenly touch any of this, I want the appearance, the color of the text to change, probably to one of the color I'm going to use within the content that will come in here. Okay, so that is called hover effect. So I will just use comment here, adding hover effect. All right. So now what is the syntax? What you are adding the hover effect to is this selector, but you have to change the format. Control C, Control V. Now you have to add column and then type what? Hover. So this is the syntax for adding hover effect. So it is additional appearance that you program as a developer from the actual appearance. What is the actual appearance? When the user gets to the page, this white color is the actual appearance. So an action must occur, an event must take place before the alternative appearance can display. So that is what we are trying to do. That is why we are calling it again, so that we can recognize this as the actual one, and then whatever we are programming here is the alternative appearance that can only be triggered when an action takes place. And what is the action? When the user hovers on that write-up. All right. So now my advice for you is to always make sure that you take note of the actual appearance. For example, now on the actual appearance, I've already used which color? White. So it shouldn't be white. If not, it makes no sense. So let's say this one should be gold. All right. Now I also want to add maybe a font style. Font style, italic. So when they hover on it, then it should italic like this, and then you can see it. So it helps the users to know which of the page they are currently in. That is just what you are trying to assist them on. I hope we are still following. Let me get a response.
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Junior,
Yes,
hope
sir.
you are following. Junior, hope
Yes,
you are
sir.
here.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm
Oh,
listening.
all right, all
I'm
right,
following.
all right, all right. Okay, so I want to skip the logo because you can as well style the logo. But let me show us something. Let's assume that these three tests, I want to give them different color. I want to give this D.
Sorry, please. Before you continue, please, I wanna ask something, please.
Oh, okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, about the logo there. I see you put those three letters. So what if I want to put an image there instead of putting
Okay.
letters?
Okay, so if you want to put an image instead of using, if you want to put an image, this is what you do. If you still want it to be in the div, you just next your image tag here. Just next your image tag here, and then you call the image. Hope that is understood. Or make sure that you must have resized.
Okay, I know.
So that is what you do.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, so now I was trying to explain something because sometimes you might think that it's graphics work. Meanwhile, it's what a developer can do. If I want these three tests or maybe the last two to have different color, what I will do is I will cut Ctrl X and then open a span tag. Span tag is used when you are talking about what is spanning from, what is flowing from, like extra of the main container. That is when you use tags like what span tag. So I will now paste it here, right? So I can now go to my CSS and I will use this logo to talk to the D. In fact, if you use this logo to talk to both the D and the ZH, for the moment you now use span to talk to this, it will not drop the appearance of this. So let me quickly do something here. So if I come here and say .logo, and I say color, .logo, let's say color, let's say, let me use that over color that I use, so that when they hover on those links, it should complement the logo color. So you can see it affects all. Now, if I now want to talk to, because all of them are direct what? Children of that what? Element with the class logo. Now, if I want to talk to the ZH, then I have to use the span tag. So I will just say span because I did not class it. Right? So I will just call color and then probably, call color. Let's say white. Let's say white. I'm trying to combine the color so you can see it. So that is a logic. If you want to add other appearance, you can go ahead. I just wanted us to know that. So this brings us to the end of our navigation bar.
Please, I want to ask something
Okay.
concerning this logo here. What if you want to change the style, all those fancy style? You don't want it to be plain like this.
You look for the font now. That's font, right? You look for the font.
Okay.
You look for the font. If you want all those fancy fonts, you can look at what you do. You can go to Microsoft Word and type it. Don't know if I can quickly show us. You can actually verify some of these fonts from Microsoft Word before you can bring them, because from Microsoft Word, you will see the appearance. So let's say ZH. So once you have typed it, just highlight it, then come here, and then in Microsoft Word, as you hover on there, you see the style. Let's say you check around and then you discover that, let me type M. I need any of this. Just an example. Okay, let's say you need this one. Now you see the name, you click here and copy it. Then you now go back to your coding page, right? So you now add font family. font family, and then you paste that one that you copied from there. Though it will not have color because it's not built in, but it will definitely what affect your design. Exactly. Flourish, do you understand that? Flourish, did you understand that? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Flourish, hope that is... Did you understand what I explained? Let me hold on. It seems you guys cannot hear me. Please, if you can hear me, let me know so that I can proceed. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you, sir.
All right, so I was asking that the explanation, I hope it was...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can hear you.
Yes, sir.
All right, all right. So let me just leave it.
Your network was not clear at that time.
I know. All right. So
Uh,
all right, so now that we have been able to design the navbar, there could be other more advanced navbar, but at least with this explanation, you now understand the structure and how to go about it. So I would advise us to continue to what probably to research into designing more advanced navbar. Now I want to shift my focus to the body section. The body section, and designing the body section, I'm going to introduce one of the layout designer, which is called CAD. We refer to it as CAD. Let me see if I can use my annotate to explain it to us. Now, the whole of this body, we are going to make sure that it's mobile responsive. In other words, we are going to have a structure like this. We are going to have a structure like this. And then we will divide it into vertical spaces, where each of these, they are called card. This could be what? Card 1. This is card 2. So this is card 3. Now, this is laptop view. On a mobile view, this one will come under, we shall have space, while this one will go under on a mobile view. But on a laptop view, the 3 card will display in a row, in one row. So for us to achieve this layout, we have to bring in CAD. So CAD is one of the most used web development layout structuring, which is mostly used for creating the main body layout and the footer. These are, in fact, in some cases, somebody can even use the card concept to develop the header. So this is where the header stopped. So immediately after it, I am bringing in what? main body design with card. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is to define the card section. The card section. So there is a part that we highlight the services before the card. The card will comprise of the picture of the product, the name of the product, and learn more button. But before this, we want to give a heading that will enable somebody to know what those cards are presenting. So to do that, I will open a section. I will open a section, which is one of the container elements that I mentioned, and then expand it. Now, this section, I want to give it a class name, and the class name is card hyphen section. All right, now inside this container, I am bringing in H2 just to create that heading that I just talked about, and it's going to be our services. Our services. Right now, our services. Now, the next thing I'm going to create is a div. A div. We are still inside the card section. So I'll bring in a div with the class name card container. Card container. So to activate the div together with the name, with the class name, so I will just say dot card hyphen container. So once I hit enter, it will create the div with that what class name. Is a short way of writing div together with what the class, or using the class to create the div. Right, so this is, as the name is a card word container. So what I'm going to do is to expand it. Now, inside this particular card container, I'm coming in with the image. With the image. That is, I want them to see the product image. And it means that we have to go and add some pictures to our image folder. Let me quickly see if I can quickly download. Let's say, which picture will I use now? Computer. Then go to image. So right click on it, the very one you want to download. Select save image as, target your web project folder, which is this, then target the image. Then make sure that you give them a unique name. File not found. Let me see. Check the file name. Let me go again to know. Save image as document, a folder, image, piece one. It's happening. Okay, let me just check something. I mean, there is Okay, so let me try and what will I do now? I think I have images. I want to waste time. Okay, so let me just capture one quickly. Download it into that image. Okay, so at least I have an image. Let me take another one. You may not have that app that I'm using to capture the image because I don't want to waste time to troubleshoot where the error is coming from. All right, so now that I have some images in my project, let me check if I have them here. Good. So as usual, I'll reference the URL where I have the image. Once you add the /, you will have access to all your project folder directory. They go in there, pick an image. So let me go to the front end and check. Good. So I have the picture. Now, like I said, the card will constitute what? The image of the product and the description of the image or the product. So I will just say, okay, H3, since I've used H2. Now, I'm supposed to say something about it. So let me use lorem, because of time, lorem, and then just give me 50 or 20. Okay, let's say give me 50 words. Press enter. Right, so let me check. Okay, so I have a description there. So the next thing is the H3 is supposed to be for the name of the products. Why this supposed to be for the P tag, just to explain the image. So here H3 should be the name. Let's say computer. Computer monitor. And then this, just to explain it, use the lorem to quickly create text to represent the explanation. Let's say 20. All right, so the next thing is to create the learn more button. The learn more button. In other words, there will be a page where you must have explained the products extensively. So you don't want to crowd your landing page with so many write-ups. So once they read brief of it, then the learn more button takes them to the main page or maybe to your product page. So the learn more button, I want to create it with anchor tab because it should be a clickable button. And then the page is going to be products. So for now, I can just, though we have not created the page, it's going to be product.html. And then I have to write learn more. Right, so let's check the front end. Right, now this is for one card. Now remember that we are still inside the section. We are still inside the section with the class card section. So which means that all I need to do is to copy this particular section. Right, is to copy this particular one, which is this that is inside. Copy. And while you are still inside the section, paste. So we just need 3 cards. So let me check my front end now, right? So we have the 3 cards. So we just go for 5 minutes break. So when I come back, we'll start with the CSS aspect. So you can be coding as well within that 5 minutes if you
Go back to that one, the last side.
Where?
This place. No, the last place, that card.
There. For my audio again so that we can proceed. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So now let's quickly look at the structure of our card before we look at the CSS. So if you look at it here, we have the principal container, which is section, showing that all your card begins here. Then you have this, which is like a header that is coming before the card, and then you have all your card in one container in order to differentiate them from other direct content inside the section. So inside this container, you have a card that starts here. While you are still inside this container, you have another card that starts and stops here. While you are still inside that container, you have another card that starts here and also stops here. Now, this div is the div of the card container, while the closing section is the closing of the section. So now that we understand this, now let's quickly go to the CSS aspects. So from our CSS, let me also use comment card styling. So the first element we want to talk to is the global selector, and global selectors is usually selected with asterisk. With this, I've explained this before. This is called global selector, where you are not selecting any direct elements. It means that you are talking about that container and the direct body tag, which is the first container, like I explained. So you can see that we have some margin there, but we want to interrupt the margin. So I can say, okay, margin, I want it to be 0. So if I go back to the page, you see that what? No space here. You can see that you have cleared all the what? The space. So let's assume that I bring back that, like I told us, we want to know the impact this is making. Just temporarily what? Comment it out and go back. You can see that what? There is a space by default. The browser calculated. So a way of telling the browser that do not calculate that space, because you have a plan to calculate it the way you want. So that is when you use the global selector and reset the margin to 0. And also if there are some padding that the browser must have calculated itself, you also return them to what? 0. Now a way of containing.
Sir, please, I'm sorry.
Okay.
This I did not know the heading that is there. Should I put card because you just put asterisks?
Which one is it from here?
No. Go back
Yeah.
to the CSS. The heading is it asterisks? Then open and close brackets.
Yes, this one, right? Yes, actually,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
So now there is a property that we usually apply, which is called box sizing, and we give it what? Border box. So what you're actually doing with this is that you are trying to contain everything within the main container, that there shouldn't be overflow. No element should grow beyond its container limits. That is what you are trying to, should in case you have content in container, just like we have now, section div. So we want to like no elements, all elements are mandated to operate or to move within their parent container. That is what you are achieving with this. So peradventure, there is an element that your content that you did not specify its handwriting. It will take this particular default. In other words, such elements will automatically inherit its parent font family. So you can decide to leave this word blank. Now, the next section, the next element we want to style, I want to be going back to the HTML so that you know how we are selecting this element. So the one we want to start with is this very one. So I will just copy it. It's a class element. I will just come here. If I'm to use comments, I could say styling the card general container. So dot and paste, right? So the first thing I want to achieve here is to align the item to the center of that container they are in. So I will say test, align, center. So if you go back here, you see that what? There is a movement. All right. Now, because we are talking to the container that is holding all the card, that is why you see that all the content are what? Moving. Now, the next thing is that I want to create some space on the inside, which is what? Sorry, we are still within this selector. We want to create padding space. Remember, I just explained padding. We want to create padding space, and we want to say 50 ps by 20 ps. So let's go there and check. Okay, so we have some padding space in between. Now, we also want a background. We want a kind of background color in order to define this area where we have all our card. So I can say background and use hexadecimal method as well that starts with hash and then calculates my color F8, F8, F8. So that is equivalent to white background. Right? So that is for that. Now we want to talk to the H2. We want to talk to this now. This is the next elements. So the H2 will simply use the parent to reference it. So that should, in case we have other places where we have the H2, they will not be involved. So I'll say dot paste. Okay, I have copy one dot already. Right? So I will just paste and say H2. Now, how do we want the H2 to display? We want to give it some margin. We want to give it margin at the bottom. Margin at the bottom. So let's say 30 ps. So let's quickly go and check that and see what we have. Okay, so you can see that what there is reasonable space between it. So we don't want it to be too close to the first card. That is why we added that margin at the bottom. Okay, so if you want to see how it was before, just comment it out and go back like advisors. You can see that is too close to the first card image, right? So now we also want to enhance the font color. We want to enhance the font color. So I'll say font size. Can determine the size, the color letter. So font size, let's say this. So if I check, I think I've increased the size a little. So for now, I want to go with this color. Maybe later when I'm done, if the color does not go with other information, I can modify. All right. So the next item we want to talk to is the card container. Card container. So let's go and identify it. Where do we have card container? Good, which is this. So Control C, come back here and paste. So let me add dots. Because of time, I'm not able to use comment to explain each of these, but I expect you to be noting them down. So the container, I want to display all those items flat so that they can be placed side by side, just like what we did when we were styling the link. So flex, right? So let's go and check what we have here. It's perfect. So you can see that our website is coming out. So you can see the power of the display flex. So when you have item in line, if you display flex, they become block. When you have item in block, if you display them flex, they become what? Inline. That is what just happened here, right? So I hope we are following. Please, can I get a response, please, from one person, just to know if you guys are still with me?
Yeah, still following.
All right, so now I want to justify those items. I want to distribute them evenly. So I will say justify content because I'm talking to a container. I will say justify center. So let me go and check. So this will ensure that what? All the items are properly what? Justify at the center. So the next thing I want to add is flex. This is a property. We call it what? Flex wrap. And then the value is what? Wrap. This is also to ensure. So you see what happened as soon as I add it, then it took me back to the way it was. So what I'm going to do, though this is going to actually make sense on mobile. Okay, so on mobile, it will make everything to display the way it is. But on my laptop, for now, I will temporarily what? Turn it off. Now, another thing I want is that I want gap. You can see that this content is what? Merging with this content. So, in other words, if I add border to those card now, you will notice that what? There is no space between card 1 and card 2. So what I'm going to do is to use one of the recent CSS property, which is called what? Gap. And then I can say, okay, I want 20 PS what? Gap. Once I come here, you see that what? There is gap here, there is gap here. So all of this, you are trying to make sure that you give the users good experience, which is what? The UI, US you have been hearing. User interface and what? User experience. That is why you are ensuring that things are properly what? Arranged. So now we just finished spoken to the container that is holding these three cards. All right. So for example, if I want, this is one row with three cards. So if I want like 3 rows or 2 rows, in other words, I want to display 6 products instead of what? 3 products. What you are going to do is this. You go back to your HTML structure. You go back to your HTML structure. Then you should be able to know where the card started, the whole of this section here. You copy it like this, trace it to where the closing tag is, Control C, then come down and paste everything. Then you go and change their picture. So if I go to the front end, you see that what? I now have what? 2 rows with what? 3 card each. I hope we are still here. Mr. Austin, hope you are still here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so that is how you can duplicate the format if you want to go beyond what? Just one row. Now, let's quickly talk to the card themselves. So we'll always take you to to HTML so that you know this is the one we just spoke to now. Now we want to talk to this. So I'll just copy this, dot, paste. Right, so now I want each of the card to have a kind of a background color in order to make it stand out from others. So I will just say what? Background. I will just say background. So use my hexadecimal method. And then I want to define the card width. I don't want them to their width to be calculated by the browser. So I want to assign width. So I would say each card should not exceed, because I'm considering mobile, because I just pray that if we are not able to get to that aspect, but we'll complete in the next class. So this card should be mobile responsive. So PS border readers. Let me check what I have. Okay, so you can see that as I change their width, you can see the background we added. You can see that the card section now has a different white background, which is different from the general page background. So that enables us to be able to to stand them out. So I hope you are following. So that is the width. Now the next thing I still want to make sure that is the cards look more user friendly. So I want to add border readers. Border readers is what we all know before now, in order to add some curve to the edges. Right? So I'll say border readers of 10 PS. So let's go and check. Perfect. Let's see whether we have. Yeah, we have it. So you can see it here. Border readers. So it makes it look more professional. Right? So all these are not compulsory. You can just choose few of them, depends on how you want to really entice your say overflow. I would say hidden. So if I come here now, this overflow is actually an optional property. But what it does is that you are actually saying that because we have overflow X, we have overflow Y. One is vertical, one is horizontal. So this is coming in because of the mobile device that you are capturing. But most of them are optional. Now, I want to add a kind of shadow. I want shadow around those cards in order to, you can see that the other time it was a little bit stressful for me to be able to trace each of those cards based on the background I use is not far from the page white background. So if I add shadow, shadow will have a way of bringing them out. So I will understand how to add shadow. So it's a property called what? Box shadow. And then you define the axis. So I'll say 0, depending on how you want it, where you want to display the shadow. So PS, 8 PS, so you can change the value and see. And then I want to define the shadow color with RGBA, which we all know, red, green, blue, alpha. We know this. This is another way you can calculate color. So I want a kind of black color. So that is why I'm putting what? 0, 0, then the opacity in order to reduce it so that the black will not be too obvious. So for example, if you come here now, you see that for the black to not to be too obvious, you just put dots 1. Then if you come back, you see that what it shows better now. You can see that what is as if the kind of 3D model. Now you are able to, you can see the shadow effect. Now remember, there are some side that I say 0. That is why you are not, if you edit here now, like here, if you edit here to, let's say 4, and you edit here to, let's say 10, you see that what the distribution will be different. Okay, so let's maintain this standard one, which we are able to get the object stand out. Right, so let me put the 1 back. Okay, so with this, we are able to get each of them standing out from the entire web page. Now, just to add this one is optional. Like I said, it's not compulsory. You actually use all of them. You just want to align the content to, you can see what I did now. So to the left, so everything is your choice. You can still leave it. If you look at what you have now, comparing it to what you have before, anyone that is better, you leave it there. So let me comment this out and see what I get. So I think I prefer this because when I use left, all this write-off were giving me kind of a block display. Right, so now we want to talk to the card image. The card image, the picture themselves. We are not okay the way they are. So let's talk to the card image. So the card image, let me see. Did we in any way class the images? No. So we are supposed to card image. So we are supposed to, okay. I think, yeah, let's still use parent and child relationship. So since we have an element called card, so we are saying that only the images that are in the element called card, they are the ones you are speaking to right now. So the width should display, in other words, you are saying that they should use 100% space. That is what within that card, the image should fill the entire space. That is the meaning. And the height can be auto. In other words, the browser should calculate the height. That is what we are saying. So if I come here, you can see that what the picture are now stretched to use the entire word space. So if this presentation is better, fine. If it is not, you go back to the previous one. Like I said, all these are not fixed, right? So So we can go on and on. I think if you want to talk to the P tag, let me see. This one's I'm going to stop here because you can style this one by yourself. You can style this one by yourself. You can also style this. I've taught us how to style your link to look like, professional button. So as your classwork, your assignment, I want every one of you to replicate exactly what I did. So we have been able to design just one page that we have designed, and even the one page we have not completed the footer section. So what I'm going to do in the next class is to complete the footer section and then show us how you can duplicate, you can use this page that you have taken your quality time to duplicate to create other pages without wasting time. The idea is this so that you do not rush when you are doing it. You see this navigation bar that we have here and the footer that we will create later. They are going to be duplicated across all the pages. So the only section that you will be changing is the main body. That is why you don't rush when you are building the index page, because once you are done building it, there are a whole lot of things there that will be inherited by other pages that will save your time. Any question, please? Any question? If there's no question, we'll draw the curtain here. Any question, please feel free to ask question. Hope you understand the assignment. Everybody, you must give me a page like this before we continue in our next class. Take that as your assignment. Do we have questions?
No, sir.
Okay. I don't know whether it's from my end. I can't hear him very well. Mr. Austin, can you hear me now?
We are good.
Okay. Flourish, are you okay?
Yes, sir. I'll use the video to finish up.
Okay. Mr. Junior, hope you are good.
Yeah, good. Good.
Please.
It's very good.
All right. So please, I want you guys to encourage me to make sure that you do the assignment. So good night, everyone. See you in the next class.
Good night, sir.
All right.